Hi, uh, uh, welcome to version 1.004 of a presentation on climate change. Uh, I will be updating this every couple of months. This is a one-side upgraded software presentation. Uh, One of the um, hardest aspects of resolving climate change is that it's not just one problem, but 99 hard problems. Um, it's a nested hierarchical tree. Uh, so how do you represent the 99 hard problems in a comprehensive manner? Um, One way is to relentlessly and as a visualization, we can visualize a 100 by 100 goal game where the there's just too much information to take in and process all at once. But um, it is all relevant, and one of the ways to deal with this information overload is to relentlessly bonsai the nested hierarchical tree. Um, what components can be taken out should be taken out because it's already too complex, and uh, what uh, whatever that could make this a little bit simpler uh, um, over time it it gradually simplifies this information overload, especially the top of the tree. Um, Currently, um, uh, a, a version is energy, problem solve, political capital, meat, and forest. Uh, well, what is bonsai out is removal, carbon removal, because it the current technology is not um, up to par with dealing with it. Perhaps when we make a fusion breakthrough, removal could be added to the list. And construction, I think um, it was 7%, and um, the main goal is to make the top of the tree as simple as possible. So it's the problem is so large and so complex that it's we need new ways of dealing with uh, complexity. More accurately, the climate change problem is not a 100 by 100 goal game, but maybe a 10,000 by 10,000 goal game. Linked dominoes, extremely interconnected. You cannot bonsai out a lot of stuff. Uh, yeah, establishing standards. Uh, is there a way to establish, to develop, and firstly, the two-degree innovation makes this tree a lot easier. Um, can we improve the two-degree innovation? Can we uh, add another innovation that's like this? So all of this is showing me that the world will increase by 5 degrees by 2050. You know, um, so what other simplified but accurate standards can we have for representing this complex problem? Perhaps software can help, climate soft, and we update the versions. Uh, and we and perhaps to establish a standard, we'll need uh, a lot of people working on it and just bonsai it, understand it for 24 hours a day, for many months to provide an accurate solution to this problem. Uh, for studying, we can study the largest software systems of the world and the largest financial systems of the world, uh, and also we could study the largest online video games of the world, like World of Warcraft and EVE Online, because they have they have to update their software relentlessly to retain their viewer. So it's it's interesting to see how they change their framework, how they develop their framework, uh, and how they keep track of it all. So this is um a it would be interesting to know the techniques that the companies employ when developing the World of Warcraft or Eve. Um, the next topic is plasticity. The next topic is plasticity. Um, uh, for this presentation, the the topics of government and laws are far beyond my circle of competence. I have no experience in this uh, and not trained in this. Um, but there is some merit in having a non-expert uh, re- review a field and contribute. One of the merits is plasticity. Um, I, as you can see from this uh, fusion post about fusion, a non-expert can simplify the situation, provide a fresh look, and related to this topic is enter the discussion with a plastic mindset. Um, uh, it's applying neuroplasticity to problem solving. Um, so a plastic mindset would be that the framework, your perception of the framework is not set in stone, say. you can that the components are you can alter the components around, and one of the one of the um comparisons is uh Hoover's response to the problem and FDR's response to the problem. FDR responded to the problem by rearranging the components and trying new things, while Hoover responded to the problem in a non-plastic manner by saying, you know, uh, by saying that we just need to sort of this framework is set in stone, um, and and we we should adhere to it, you know, down to the last person, so to speak. Uh, One of the disadvantages of expertise is that uh, is this plasticity aspect, because scientific experts have 10 years of training and 40 years of rigorous work in their fields. From my experience as a scientist, uh, it's boring. As a biologist, it's boring and tedious work. uh, so so and this directly um affects the plastic mindset. Uh, Once you reach your first conclusion bias and your loss aversion, you become set in that mindset. And and also another disadvantage is that all of the boredom saps the neonatal aspect of our minds. So both of these disadvantages prevents a plastic mindset. So, uh, but there's also the other side of the spectrum. FDR was too plastic when he initiated the Supreme Court enlargement plan, because he he went too far in the spectrum. Some things you need to set in stone, but some things, you don't have to set in stone. And also, for the sort of sort of life draining boredom of the scientific endeavors, you can counter it with humor, and and yeah, you can counter it with humor. So practical solution would be to buy a cute pet for members of the IPCC board, because the board is made up of scientists who spent who sort of spent so long uh, in their fields. The next topic is political capital. Um, every so Hypothetically, every new administration gets $1,000 of political capital at the start. Um, I would argue if there's a chart, the the effectiveness and the amount of political capital is decreasing. So the amount of large policies that an administration can buy is reduced. The amount of initial political capital is also reduced. So FDR had 100,000 to work with, while modern presidents had $1,000. Also, $100,000 can buy $100,000, while the modern president can only buy maybe like $500. So the reason for this reduction, um, I would argue, is an increase in societal complexity, matured numerous special interests. It's understandable. Uh, the point of view from the special interests is understandable because they need to put food on the table. But in some respect, they act as weeds and sort of enlarges the uh, disconnect between private interest and public good. The acceleration of the income gap and short-termism myopia, which sort of orients the public towards only the only the present. And this reduced effectiveness in political capital is not all bad because um, studies have shown that the private sector can do some jobs better than the public sector. It prevents government overreach. But the reason that it is bad for climate change is that in a time of uh, we live in a time of large tech- technological acceleration of problems that requires significant political capital to deal with. Uh, so some of the frameworks are FDR and Diocletian. Uh, so how would FDR and Diocletian tackle the climate change problem? Uh, so I would argue that just like Andrew Yang suggested that uh, uh, the establishment of an attention ministry, uh, that some form of the ministry of political capital, some apparatus is perhaps not so apparent and open to the public, but some form to study this decline in in the amount and the efficacy of political capital is required to counterbalance this drastic reduction. Maybe not drastic, I'm not sure, but there's definitely a reduction in political capital, particularly for the large scale political capital. Um, is the current version of government, are we reaching peak complexity for the current version of government? Is the risk reward for large policies skewed? Um, this is a novice opinion, but it seems that there's a large incentive for preserving the status quo, and large policies are not rewarded because they have a delayed productive effect, and they're immediately punished by um, certain unintended harm, unintended resistance, immediate, definite. Um, One of the solutions is up for the political capital problem is upgrading the Titanic. Um, if you go to USA Facts, there is an annual report that condenses key numbers um, and uh, um, uh, where um, perhaps in the future our government will will be able to sign off this annual report like a CEO does. Um, what best private sector corporation governance practices can be grafted onto the government, especially in terms of agile self reorganization? Um, can we invest uh, middle level managers with more responsibility so that, and this sort of ties into the corporate governance part, can can we invest them with more autonomy and rewards so that they do not pass the buck to the next tiers but actual governmental stakeholders? uh, Also, a key component of what um, to use the political capital for is this aspect of the energy per capita consumption. Um, so one of the um, one of the things is, is this uh, is this disconnect between private interest and public good, and China's social capital innovation is designed to at least start towards addressing that. Uh, One of the other methods for addressing it is virtualization. Cheap cloud glasses can reduce our consumption of energy in the actual world by moving our consumption to the virtual world. Uh, Another key challenge is to uh, another key challenge is the new updated news story. Um, a reporter uh, covering climate change mentions that it's the same dull, grim story. So, where people will reflexively avoid. It's a PR marketing challenge. Um, Everyone looks for novel entertainment, and we're confronted with this same dull, grim story. So, at a time where the boredom tolerance index is declining, so how do you sell the unsellable? How do you um, have it interest the public? Uh, so, uh, how do you um, weave together stories that penetrates the collective consciousness? Uh, how do you? And one of the examples is Final Fantasy VII. It weaves together a compelling story, especially for our youth, that with story, music, interactivity. Um, and there's this YouTube video that shows that, you know, it's become a a cultural phenomenon in Japan, and people would would reminisce about how much they remember about the initial sort of and it's a story about how there is a live stream under the earth and how humans are pumping out the live stream for our own energy and enrichment. Uh, it's it's a moving story. So uh, thank you for watching and have a good day.